Testing. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon for some of you. Thank you for joining the She Is series with She Is Hope LA. This is going to be a class with life coaches, some 4 beautiful women sharing their specialties. I've got Sonia Satra, Linda Kneidinger, Rajika Mahan, and Nermine Zakhary. Thank you for joining us, ladies. Our topic today is going to be on how to kick your fear to the curb so you can let your inner light shine. So I don't know how you ladies would like to do this. I'll go ahead and let you start. I don't know if you want to go one at a time or just start talking. I don't know what your plan was, but go for it. Thank you for sharing your expertise and time with us today.
Well, I can jump in if you want to start. My name is Sonia Satra, and I'm an NLP coach and also the founder of a company called Motosize that integrates coaching with exercise. And I am a former actress, sometimes actress, but sort of known best for being on Guiding Light. I was Lucy Cooper on Guiding Light and Psycho Nurse Barbara on One Life to Live. Although it's not typecasting, so don't worry.
That's great.
But I got into mindset really when I was acting because I was being rejected, like many are in that world, a lot. And I realized, and I was becoming more and more paralyzed by fear because of all that rejection. And I started to believe everything that everybody was saying in terms of you're not this enough or that enough or whatever you call it. I was probably not enough of that. And so I definitely felt beaten down and realized too that it was not always the best actress that got the job, but it was the people that had the strongest mindset that were able to persevere and succeed. And so I studied mindset as much as I studied acting, and ultimately it worked. And that's when I started to land roles. And so the good news is it is absolutely positively something you can overcome. Fear is probably one of the greatest showstoppers, and yet there are strategies. And I know I've spoken to many of the women here today, and I think we've all sort of had our own encounter and have found different things to help overcome. So looking forward to sharing some of those. But I don't know, I can pass the baton. Maybe everybody wants to introduce themselves just so we know who everybody is. And then we can
that's a great idea.
plunge right in.
Thank you. Yes.
Terrific.
Linda, do you want to go next?
Sure. And just to build on that before I get into my bio, I think that part of that being paralyzed by fear thing that we all experience, the interesting part about it is we think it's just us. So sort of like you're saying, Sonia, you're assuming all these other actresses are super confident and going in with something that you don't have. And meanwhile, we're all feeling the same way. And when I tell my clients, I read articles by huge superstars, Beyonce, athletes, Olympic athletes, and they all have that same fear. It's a natural thing. Nobody gets away without it. It's just a matter of figuring out how to manage it and being compassionate with yourself, knowing that it's there for a good reason. I mean, it's really there for a protective reason, but we should fear things. We just get carried away and fear the wrong things. And I know that for myself and for a lot of my clients, that's very helpful when you realize, oh, it's not just me. I'm not just effective. It's not just me who will never succeed because I have no confidence. It has nothing to do with it. It's just a natural thing. I just have to learn how to work with it. So my background, the way I got interested in this area was as a high school athlete, very similar. I was the number one tennis player at my high school, and I could crush it at practice. Nobody on my team could come anywhere close to me. And then I'd have these big, intense matches with really good, nationally ranked players, and I would crumble. And my coach would say, "You're not thinking enough." And I knew that I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew it wasn't that I wasn't thinking enough, because I was pretty sure I was probably thinking too much. And that led me I studied neurobiology as an undergrad, and I have 2 master's degrees in psychology, and I'm still a huge geek for the brain. I can't stop reading and learning about the brain. And with technology nowadays, it's so awesome that we can really see what parts of the brain light up when we do different things. And it really can help us learn, oh, that's what's going on. And so how do we manage that in a way that is working with our biology and making it easy.
That's pretty cool. All right, Nermine, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nermine Zakhary, founder and Chief Empowerment Officer of Strengths Edge. And similar stories for me. Everything changed the day that I walked into a workshop called Discover Your Strengths. So I like to call myself your shift up coach. And the focus for me is around focusing on strengths building instead of weakness fixing, to overcome those fears and to overcome the things that we think we can't do. The backstory, I was in high school, I was a cheerleader, did well, grade A's, and I come from my culture is Egyptian. Growing up, the culture was very, there was a lot of demand, a lot of expectations on our grades and doing well and the kind of profession I would have. My dad was a doctor, high expectations, and I wanted to, I loved biology and chemistry, thought I wanted to go into med school, and I wanted to help people, and even received awards at graduation. Nermine was going into the medical field. And then I got to my first year in my first biology exam, and I bombed it. So this was it was a bit of a shock to my system. And it threw me into a loop. I started to explore other fields. Nothing was satisfying. At the end, I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in a science. And so super successful in high school, total failure in college. And that stayed with me. That stayed with me for 20 years. What happened when I went into this workshop, Discover Your Strengths, I walked in, I did an assessment, I got my results, and there were these fluffy words, relationship words, and I saw them and I thought they had nothing to do with anything I'd achieved over my life. And I looked at them and I walked in with a bit of an attitude to this workshop because I saw those words actually too as my weaknesses. I lead with adaptability. I can't make a decision for my life. How is this a strength? Empathy, I'll ruminate for days about conversations I've had with folks. I said too much, I said too little. I know I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, so I saw them as my weaknesses, but I left that workshop saying everybody needs to know their strengths. I experienced a paradigm shift in the course of that 90 minutes because I recognized that when I actually use my strengths, I am experiencing some element of happiness. I am doing something useful. And what was interesting is as we enjoyed this exercise and I shared my strengths and some activities and experiences with the gentleman sitting next to me, I realized I'd spent the bulk of my adult life trying to live up to someone else's expectations and never quite meeting them, or comparing myself to other people and never ever feeling quite good enough. Why can't I be like so-and-so? Why can't I do what she does? And in that moment, for the first time, I think in my adult life, I felt like it was okay to just be me. And it's an invitation to you to explore your gifts, explore your strengths, and leverage them, revel in them. And that is a piece of the puzzle we're going to learn today about stepping into and tackling those darn fears.
I love that. Thank you. All right, Rajika.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again, Tisha, for putting all of us together. Rajika Mahan. My journey started a little bit similar to Nermine. I'm from India, so there was a lot of cultural expectations, cultural directing us. We have to be a certain way. women are supposed to behave in a certain way. They're not supposed to speak up. And at that point, it started about 4 years ago, almost 5, being married and being a stay-home mom. And it was the point that changed my life was when I realized that I was not happy. I was living into what other people wanted me to do and be, and not voicing my thoughts and my feelings. And it really got to the cross point of, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I was because I had spent all the time, raising my kids, looking after the family. And the pivotal point was when I went to a seminar. It was a 3-day seminar, and it was really understanding and asking a powerful question: what would I love for myself? And that changed the trajectory of why I'm doing this and where I am today, because that was the first time in 40 plus years of my life that I asked that question for myself, not because my mom told me what to do, my husband told me what to do, or, society was telling me, but I asked that question for myself: what would I love for myself? And that gave me so much more empowerment, gave me such a different lens of how I was being and how my life was just surrounded by the limitations and the boundaries I had set on myself. And that has taken me through my journey, being a stay-home mom. The biggest, once I transformed the areas for myself, built the courage to be who I was, to speak up, to really share who I was, and then decided to, open a business. All the fear came up. Who's going to talk? Who's going to, want to speak to you? You're a stay-home mom. You don't have that corporate job. You don't have all this stuff. And the fear was paralyzing. And I'm here to say that the fear is going to be with you, regardless of you being like Sonia, who was a successful actress, to me, who was a stay-home mom, to Linda, who is a high performing athlete. The fear is going to be there, but it's the decisions that you have to make for yourself of who do you want to be and what is the life? Are you going to play small? Are you going to let other people's opinions and thoughts matter, and you're not going to live into your potential? So I'm really excited to share some of the ways that we all are, the tools that can empower you and really help you shine your lights.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. And yes, I'd like to see how you'd like to start this. Sonia, do you want to go ahead and we'll kind of continue maybe that order, or just jump in and discuss what you feel about this topic?
Sure. Well, I'm happy to jump out of order too. I just wanted to build a little bit on what Rajika said in terms of developing the courage, because I think that's such a great distinction. So many times people come to me and they say that they're afraid and that they don't have the confidence. And really, I believe that courage comes first. We all have courage. The courage we had to go to school on our first day, our first date, our first job, whatever it is, it exists within each and every one of us already. You don't even have to do anything. You have that, and you can build on that. And the more you step into courage, the more the confidence will come. And I think when it's new, when you feel uncertain, unstable, and fearful, remembering you don't have to know it all. You really don't. And I think that's often the feeling that we have when we're scared is, but I'm not there yet, right? Wherever there is, there's this, elusive place of brilliant confidence that you're supposed to be at in order to achieve anything. And it's just not the reality. You need to just keep taking small steps, or steps of any kind in that direction. And remembering you have that in you is a good first step. So, yeah.
Okay, am I next in the Hollywood squares here on my computer screen? I'll use my turn to share a strategy that I use with my clients, and sort of building on what Nermine said about, I just love that what she thought were her weaknesses were actually her strengths. Like I'm sure everybody in this group right now has either been told or told themselves that they're too something, you're too emotional, you're too reactive, you're the exact right amount of that. And maybe that's a huge arrow pointing at your strength. And so how can you flip that around and use that? So the strategy I use with my clients, and I shared this with the lovely ladies I'm on the panel with, is this little guy I call Anxious Mouse. And so we all have that voice in our head, that fear voice, the critter brain, whatever people call it nowadays, but we all have it. It's not just you. And it is there to protect us from danger. It's misguided, and that's why he's a mouse. He's got a tiny little mouse brain. And so I say to my clients, when that voice starts going, you shouldn't do this, you're to this, who are you to, like Rajika said, who are you to start a new company? Whatever that voice says to you, tell my clients, let's depersonalize that voice. It's not you. You don't need to believe the voices in your head, the thoughts in your head. They're only one part of you. So we attribute them to Anxious Mouse. And we listen to them because there's a kernel of truth in that. There's something in there from our background, our belief system that's being triggered by whatever setting we're in. So we listen to it very compassionately. Wow, Anxious Mouse, you think no one will hire me as a coach because I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Thank you for your concern. Really appreciate that. It gives me a nugget of information about where my fears are, maybe some things I need to think about. But I'm going to use the other part of my brain, the non-fear-based part of my brain, and I'm going to come up with solutions, and I'm going to move past that. And so I send you away to go nap, and I'll take over from here. And I use that method with athletes, with stay-at-home moms, with people in business, to help them feel like they have a way to take that voice and give it a useful place, but not necessarily listen to it. So I guess you're up, Nermine.
Thank you. I love that, Linda. Talking to the to Anxious Mouse and just dumping and then shifting to the positive. In keeping with, I'll keep with the strengths theme and give you ladies some things to start looking at, to notice. Start noticing your strengths. There's something really positive and uplifting that happens when we look at the positive. Start noticing. So these are just some things, some tips. Start noticing the things that you are naturally drawn to, the things that you yearn to do, that internal force that leads you to something. You just can't help yourself. Also notice where rapid learning comes for you. Where does learning come easy? You just you do it and you pick it up and no sweat, and then you move on. Another is, when do you feel this contentment, psychological fulfillment? You take a deep sigh and you're just so happy and content when you've completed an activity. How about when you are so engrossed in an activity that you lose all sense of time, all track of time, timelessness? 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours go by and it felt like 30 minutes. And the final one is those glimpses of excellence. When you've just completed something and you look at it and you say, wow, I just did that. So these are 5 things you can start noticing to pick up on. Well, what are some of my strengths? What are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that bring me enjoyment? that bring me, that where I am making some kind of an impact. And also ask people around you, what do you think? When you're hanging out with me, when we're interacting, what do you see as a strength of mine? What do you rely on me for? And start taking that in. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Awesome. I'm loving this. So what I would say is with fear is going to show up at every step. And I want to talk a little bit around the subconscious mind. I would look at fear as a thermostat system. Okay. The fear comes up is, and this is something that I heard and I want to share this. It said, fear is the border of the reality you've known. So fear up until now, you have been operating from a current set point, okay? And we all have a thermostat in our house. So if you look at your thermostat, we set it at a particular temperature. And this is kind of our subconscious mind, when we have a current set point of how we have been operating or what results we've been creating, if we want to create something different, the fear is going to come up. Oh, you can't do this. Who are you? Who do you think you are? You're not going to have the money. All of those, because the function of the thermostat is to keep you in a particular variance, right? It's going to keep you within the temperature that you've set in your house. So if you look at your thermostat, if it goes, it goes out of variance, if it goes too high, the cooling air will kick in. So when in your mind, when you're saying, oh, I want to do this, I want to create a business, or I want to maybe do public speaking, whatever that is, right? Or I want to get a different job. The subconscious mind job is to keep you at your current set point. That's why the fear thoughts and the fear voice comes up, because it doesn't want you to get too happy. It doesn't want you to get too successful. It doesn't want you to go out of the current set point of the results you've created. So what do? You have to friend it. And the way you friend it is you have to really have and I can send this over after it's done, is you have a kind of, I call it a fear speech, saying, thank you for showing up. I recognize you, and I'm going to take a different step, right? So that is, and really understanding why the subconscious mind wants to keep you at a particular set point, because it doesn't want you to get too happy, get too successful. It wants you to be at the current set point. So really looking at when the fear voice comes up, saying it's good news that it's showing up because it's giving you information. Okay, thank you, fear, it's showing up. And it's an information that either I would like to stay at the same set point, or do I want to take a different action? So I would say fear is a good thing. Fear is really giving you information of what would you like to do different. So I will pass it back to Ms. Sonia.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And so I want to throw in a slight variation on that same theme from both Linda and Rajika in regards to the making fear your friend. I have an exercise as well. I love, Linda, that you get the little mouse, because it's such a great visual, right? It really sort of demotes fear in a way. But another alternative to that is to also to step into fear, like literally stand up, you and fear. Make fear either a mouse or a person or whoever fear is to you, whatever that looks like, feels like. It could be a blob, it could be just darkness, it could be a mouse, it could be whatever. And then alternate, speak to fear. What is it that you're feeling about it? Like, fear, stop. I wish you weren't here. You're really freaking me out and stopping me from doing what I believe I'm meant to do. then go and step into fear as whatever fear is and speak back to you. What does fear have to say to you? What does fear say? Well, I'm just, I'm here. You better get used to it, or whatever it is. And then go back and forth. You might feel a little bit like a crazy person, but it's incredibly effective as you alternate between the two. And being in the perspective of fear can be really enlightening. And I think by the end, you somewhat come to a similar conclusion that fear is there to protect you. It generally really is. And it's powerful. It's a really powerful force that when you come together, can actually work together. Like, can you come to a compromise? Fear, you've got a lot of energy. You do have my back sometimes, but maybe just a little too much in this case. Like, how can we harness what's great about you and come for the ride? Because I need you to make sure, right? I don't show up at a weird place in the middle of the night where I'm gonna, be stalked by some crazy person, or whatever the case might be, or I might not think something through in terms of a business or whatever fear is there to try to save you from. So use that, but also, but understand it and embody it. And somehow when you actually step into the body of fear, it's a really fascinating experience. And that kind of leads me to another exercise, but I feel like I might have taken my time, so I can share that one next time. But it's another variation on that in terms of perspective, because I think, well, all right, I'm going to just jump in because it's so closely tied to it. But perspective is huge, and how we see fear. Generally, we see it. So if starting a business, for example, is what's creating the fear. So looking at business, what's the perspective you are physically in right now? Fear. And you can feel it, right? We all have a stress response. Literally walk to a different space in the room. What's another perspective you can have on starting this business? Well, another perspective might be, this could be a really cool opportunity to grow, to learn. I might meet new people. Like, this could be exciting. That's another perspective. Go to another place in the room. What's another perspective you might have on it? Well, it could work out, right? It's 50-50. So stand in that. You could stand in another negative perspective of, it's going to be hard. Stand in like anywhere from 6 to 8 perspectives. Usually the first 3 are easy to find. They're the fear one, and there's something good. And then there's a whole lot of variations. And then at the end, go back and you get to choose. And that's one of the most brilliant parts of that particular exercise, is you realize it's a choice. And many of us inadvertently choose to stand in the perspective of fear, when once you've seen this, you've got 6, 8, 12, 15, if you wanted, different perspectives that you also could stand in. And when you go back and you stand in a different perspective, and it's interesting when I guide people through this, they don't always go and step into the very best. There's usually a different sort of medium ground, probably that set point, something just above their normal set point, and then really embody that. And from that place, from that embodiment of that point of view, what would you do? Because that can shift your when you come from a stronger point of view, what you decide to do will be very different than when you come from a fear-based point of view. So it's another way I tend to move people around a lot, because I like to embody different perspectives, and it can be really, really enlightening. And so, one to try. I will pass it on. Linda, you're up.
Okay, I'll take a second to build on that. As thinking humans, we all get stuck too much in our head. But we also, and that's what I love about Sonia's exercise, is making it physical and moving. We know we feel things in our bodies. We tend to ignore that. Tisha was giving us a story right before we started about something just felt off about an experience she was about to enter into. Her intuition told her, man, this isn't, like, something's weird about this. And we know that we get those things. We know that we feel sick in our stomach, or we get shoulder pain. We know we clench our jaw, but we tend to think that we're doing all of our thinking with our brain. And there's a lot of science going on right now showing the amount of neural activity going on between the brain and the gut. It's a whole system. It's a whole nother brain. And so I'm sure all of the panelists here do the same thing, is really helping our clients tap into all of that body knowledge, the physical, like let's give the brain a break for a second, and let's listen to the body. Let's get up, let's physically move. Let's use space as our friend. Let's listen to what is the message in our jaw, in our shoulders, in our stomach. Let's use the information we're getting from our body to then translate a different set of knowledge. Hey, my stomach tells me I feel very uneasy. Let's explore this. Let's listen to my body. What about this is making me feel uneasy? Instead of judging ourselves or full steam ahead, let's take a step back and listen to the wisdom in your body. I'm sure everyone in this group has been through an experience that made you feel uneasy, made you feel sick or tense. And that's a whole set of beautiful wisdom that can be useful to you. And it helps us give our brains a break, because we are overthinkers. We all are. There's a whole set of socks and mugs and all kinds of t-shirts and cool things online, because you can make a lot of money talking about overthinking, because so many people relate to it. So I guess what I'm building on Sonia is take a step back, give your brain a break, listen to your body, take a breath. You got a lot of wisdom inside of you that we tend to try to push aside and think through. Okay, Nermine, you got something?
I love the physicality of the Sonia stepping into a different space and seeing the perspective, and Linda just listening to our bodies instead of just stop up here and listen to what else is going on. I love that. I think oftentimes our fears stem from past experiences, past perhaps perceived failures, past negative experiences. And sometimes those come from, just to build on something that Linda said earlier, sometimes, people tell us you're too much of something. Sometimes when we use our strengths effectively, we accomplish great things. When we use them in balance, we all get that there are things that we don't know how to do. We get that we have blind spots. I get that there's my husband is a fantastic planner, and I live in the moment. I get that we're different, and we look at things differently. So we understand that there are areas of weakness. We do have areas of weakness. What we might not realize is that probably close to 2/3 of the times that we show up not as strong are because I'm not effectively using my strengths. I'm overusing them or underusing them. And that overuse kind of gets us into trouble sometimes. When I mentioned earlier, when I lead with adaptability. I'm so flexible to the point that I can't make a decision. How is that serving me? How is it serving the people I work with, my family? All it does actually is create more frustration, and it makes me look incapable, incompetent. What happens is when we're overusing our strengths, there's there are things lies that I start to listen to. Things when, for example, an achiever. who needs to get stuff done during the day, they might overdo it and become like a hyper achiever to the point where they fill their day with 10, 15 things, and they can't go to bed until all of them have been crossed off. And they're overtired, they're overworked, they're irritated. It creates more frustration. It doesn't serve them. They're not effective in their work, and it also affects their relationships. So it's about curbing the overuse and bringing it back to an effective, create that balance. And when we're in balance, we are effective. And when we are effective, we're achieving success. We're doing something useful and making an impact. And with each of those, we're increasing our confidence and little by little overcoming the fears and recognizing, no, I am successful in this. I can do this. I'm increasing my confidence and able to step into my dreams and the goals that I've set for myself and the things that I want to do. Rajika.
Awesome. So I want to build on what Nermine was saying around dreams and goals. The tool number 2 that I would like to share is feed your fear. And I know you're probably like, what? How do we feed that? This is really feeding your fear from a place of asking that question, what would you love, right? And creating a vision of what you would love to create. So the possibilities of an area of your life where you're feeling that your cup is not full, or you're not feeling that, I'd like to take it up a notch. But what happens is when we have the fear that comes up, we're trying to just manage the fear. Okay, what do I do? You kind of feel scattered sometimes. But when you have a vision, when you have a clear vision or path that you would like to create, that can be your guiding light. That can be your guiding post of, okay, this is what I would love to create right now. And why having a vision, and that's something that I help my clients do, is the vision gives you exactly the clarity of what you want. Could it be in your health? It could be in your relationship. It could be in your career or your vocation, time and money freedom. What would you like to create? And then when the fear comes up, like Sonia and Linda said, and we all are kind of sharing the same thing, is look at it in the space and then connect to what you want to create in the moment, right? What would you like to create? And then take an action step, right? So creating a vision of what is it in an area of your life where you're feeling discontent, you're feeling, what, I'm not loving this area, and I would like to improve it, get different results, better results. Tapping into one of our mental faculty is imagination, right? Really tapping into our imagination and thinking, what would I like to create in this moment? Because here's the thing, half of our thoughts and what we think on a daily basis, 90% of them we use to terrorize ourselves. It's not using us to have something constructive happen, right? Because we're going down the path of what if it'll go wrong? We look for all the reasons for why it will go wrong versus looking for the reasons that it could go right, or it could go the way I would love for it to go. So having a clear vision is really a guiding post that can help you to create anything in your life. It could be that thriving relationship. It could be that thriving business, and taking steps in alignment with that. So that is my tip number 2.
Can I jump in here real quick? I just, it's funny because there were a couple of things that I was going to bring up more toward the end, but I don't want to forget. So my tool, I know as a kid, Linda, you reminded me with your little mouse of what you were talking about. As a kid, I used to have nightmares in a couple of different places that we lived. And the only way I was able to get myself to like kind of comfort myself, and I've used this with my kids and some of my other friends, is to picture yourself like changing the channel. That back then it was change the channel. Now we have remotes, but whatever, you could have the remote control and change it to something that's pleasant, that something soothes you. So that was something that I used as a guide a while ago. But that visual, Rajika, you're right. So everyone was like, how are you doing what you're doing? And I'm like, I clearly see where I want to go. Yes, there's been a few things that have been, I've had to pivot and adapt to, like we were talking before we started this, but it's like, I know where I want to go with this. I know how I want to do things. I know who I want to help, and I am just bound and determined to do it. But having that clear vision, I think, is really key. So that's a really good point, because that's what fuels me. And sometimes, yeah, fear will step in and I'm like, okay, no, I got to like forget this and let it go and let fear fuel me. That was another thing I kind of wanted to go with. So Sonia, I'll let you take it back. I just wanted to jump in before I forgot those things.
Oh no, they're brilliant. I love that. And I love the changing the channel. It made me think of another one too that's similar to that. And that's like an erase board, or it could be a whiteboard too, but just erasing it and then writing or drawing what it is that you want. So just sort of that, I'm going to wipe that out, but changing channel is awesome too. So that's cool. And yeah, just on Rajika, I think it's so true. And the vision is so powerful. And to tie that into the body too, watching both of you talk about that, and also Nermine, hearing you talk about your strengths, your body language just changes so immensely, when you're connected to that vision. And it is that whole body language that changes, that again also puts you into a more resourceful place. So your body doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real. And so by imagining it, you're essentially training your body for the real thing. And that's another reason why I think it's just so powerful. And I'm sure all of us do this and have a way in which you can find it. But with that vision, I think often goes the why, right? Why is it important to you? And so one exercise that you can do to really start to get to the deepest levels of why you want that is to ask, why is this important to me? So Tisha, you want to build this amazing, you have this vision, this store and this real estate, and then like everything you're doing is just so amazing. And it's so clear. And I know you do have a powerful why. I do hope you share your story, because that rocks. But anyway, so why is that important to you? And so maybe it's because I want to help people. Well, why is it important to help people? And you'll have a reason. Well, why is that reason? And ask that, why is it important to you, 7 to 8 times, using the answer from right before. Why is that important to you? And it's sort of a way of almost peeling the onion and getting to that root core of your deep mission and why it really is important. And I think that why, with that beautiful vision, is really what also helps drive you through that fear when it inevitably shows up.
And I'll build on that for a second, and I want to give you an art project. Something that I personally found transformational when I went through that why process the first time was when I was told, keep in mind that what's awesome for you is not going to be good for someone else. It's actually going to trigger a bunch of fear in someone else. And so these wonderful people who love you in your life might react really poorly. And it's not about you, and it's not about your goal. Just have compassion for the fact that you doing something awesome for you changes the whole system. And so just be ready and acknowledge, some other people, this is going to shake some stuff up, and that's okay. That's all right. So real quick, my art project for you, because I'm guessing this might be my last time through. Something that builds on Nermine's strengths is, and this is something I do, I work with this group of National Charity League is an organization for teenage girls. It's a charity organization. And I meet with a group of them every year, the girls who are coming through 7th grade. And this is a project I usually do with them, but I've also done it with groups of businessmen, and I love that just as much. I have them do who's your best self, but we do it as an art project. So you close your eyes and you sit back and you take a couple deep breaths and you really feel in your body, like, I'm being my best self. What does that feel like? Where is that? What does that look like? One girl drew a makeup compact because she loves makeup and her best self is got glittery eyeshadow. And a businessman drew a shoe because he feels like he loves dress up shoes. And so when he puts on certain shoes, it's sort of like his power shoe. For me, it's just like a warm, sunny orb. I really feel that in my chest. And then I have people, I say, draw that. And then either in that or outside of that, write all of your strengths. And I'm not talking about just your strengths, like in the business perspective or things that would lead to success, even things like, I like my hair. All those things that just feel good about you. And I didn't bring it upstairs with me, but I have it taped on my pencil holder on my desk. So in those moments when it's sort of like, oh my gosh, I'm flailing or I'm on the wrong path or whatever, something, I start on that negative path. I look at my little sunshine and I remember those things, the big things and the little things. I'm compassionate. I'm a good mom, just all the little things that just make me feel good about myself, that put a smile on my face. And it's a lot easier to get back on the right path when you're in that place of feeling good about yourself. But draw it, really draw it, have fun.
I love it. I love it. So you'll have a picture and a reminder of our strengths and all that's wonderful, of your future best self. Sonia, there's so many things here. Sonia said something about imagining the leaning in. There's something about assuming the position of that confidence, of that tackling the thing that you want to do, that is so powerful. And Rajika, there's something that you said earlier that reminded me of a quote from a seminar that I attended a while ago. A woman who wrote the book Hello Fears. In her seminar, she was telling the story about walking out onto the TEDx stage. She was being guided by an escort. And the escort just said her, of course, she's getting nervous and she's worked up. She's tackling her fears, but she's nervous. So her escort said, what's the worst that can happen? So she's saying, that's probably the worst question she could have asked me. And I want to flip it around for you. What's the best that can happen? And what a shift. What's the best that can happen? We ask ourselves, what's the worst? I don't know why that's a typical question that gets asked. Let's flip it around. What's the best that can happen? And let me just share something else with you about just something for you to know about your strengths, that they inform the types of contributions that you naturally make and that you enjoy making. They also inform what you need in order to perform at your best. So if you might be a strategic thinker who creates a vision for us. You might be someone who executes, takes that vision and makes it happen. You might be an influencer who takes the team's ideas and sells them out inside and outside the organization. And you might be a relationship builder, someone who is, in essence, the glue that holds the team together. Those would be some of the types of contributions that you make. What do you need in order to perform at your best? Because if you're not getting what you need, that's where the frustrations come. That's where you feel obstacles in your way because you can't take that next step to get that thing done. So the question to ask, what do I need when I'm feeling frustrated? What do my strengths need so that I can take that step forward? Rajika.
Thank you. Gosh, so many golden nuggets. I would say as the last piece is something that I do for myself and also with my clients is what I call generate state, right? And when I am feeling fearful or I'm having not so empowering thoughts, right? You kind of get stuck in your mind, like Linda said, right? We're so much in our mind. It's 3 steps. So the first one is to take a deep breath. The breath really, 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 it's so easy, but it's so overlooked, can shift your energetic state, your physiology in your body. It can shift it. So when you are feeling fear, when you are feeling, oh my God, I'm going to do something I haven't done up until now, is to take a deep breath, close your eyes, inhale through your nose, and then exhale like you're blowing through a straw. And do that a few times. Do that 3 times, 4 times, 10 times. What will happen is you will start noticing that you are moving from sympathetic to your parasympathetic system, where your body, your nervous system is saying, okay, I am not in danger. A bull or a lion is not chasing me down. I'm not going to die. So it's really shifting. So taking a deep breath and really doing that. And then to that, what I add is, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Right? We all have so much to be grateful for. So maybe just list like 3 to 5 things you're grateful for, right? I have clean water. I have a warm bed, right? I have food, whatever that is. So 3 to 5 grateful. And then to that, what I would love to add is, and I know as women, we sometimes do not share our wins or what we are proud of doing. Add a win to your, what is something you did that you're proud of? And not I say from a proud of state is not looking at it that you're bragging in, being like, bragging about yourself, but really a proud of that I took a bold step, or I did this today, right? I woke up and I got dressed today. That could be a win or proud of moment. So from that, you can, once you shift your energetic state, do the breath, do a gratitude, do a win. And then from that, ask yourself, what step can I take today that can support me in my goal or a dream that I'm trying to fulfill on? What step can I take? And that will shift the fear is going to be there, but it'll shift your state. It'll shift your energetic state and put you in a vibration of, I know we've all heard it, right? Gratitude is on the same vibration as abundance. So you shift your state, you're more expansive, you're feeling more expansive, I got this, and then take a step.
Oh, I love that. And that's something I preach it to my kids all the time. They don't always like hearing it, but I'm like, well, think of how much you have to be grateful for. You know what I mean? How far we've come in the last 9 years. We were like on food stamps and this close to being homeless. And I'm like, look how far we've come. We've got a roof over our heads, food in our mouths. Yes, we're still on our journey, but we are happy, we're healthy, we have each other. And there's just little things. And sometimes I'm like, oh, Mom. And I'm like, I know, but really it is a big deal in the big picture. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop recording so that if anybody else wants